Hey guys, so I'm back again with another installment of the Search and Rescue Officer stories. I hope you're enjoying the content so far. As you can see, this has been a long story so far, and it's I think at the end of this probably around 2 hours worth of content. I'd like if you would please subscribe and like the videos just so we can get this channel growing. I'd really like the channel to grow a bit more so I can see some of you are interested in it, and I am more prepared to put the work in and provide a daily upload if that's what you like. And on the back of that, guys, if there's any stories you would like to hear and share, please comment on the video and I'll get back to you with an email address. There you could send your story and I'll happily narrate that for you. And yeah, on with the story. Hey guys, I'm back from my training op and I've lots of really interesting stories to share with you. I've got enough that I'm going to break them up into two parts. This being the first, I'd love to put them in one entry, but I haven't had a chance to write them all down yet. I didn't have anything too crazy happen while I was out there, but we did have one incident with a rookie that I found relevant. Since I'm sure you guys have been waiting for these, I'll get right into it. I'll assign each batch of stories to the person who told them. KD. KD is a vet who's been an SAR officer for about 15 years. Excuse me. She specialises in high elevation. Excuse me. She specialises in high elevation mountain rescues and is widely considered one of the best in her field. She was one of the more enthusiastic storytellers, and since we were together for a fair amount during the exercise, she ended up telling me about four that really stuck with me. The first one she told me in response to me asking about the most traumatic calls. She shook her head and told me that really bad calls happen more frequently on the mountain. Since the potential for nasty accidents is higher. About 5 years ago, one of the parks she worked at had a string of disappearances. It was a bad year, she says, one of the worst on record as far as weather went. They were getting about a foot of new snow every couple of days, and there were a few avalanches that killed some climbers. They'd warn people about staying on the mapped paths through the areas, but of course there are always those who don't listen. In one particular nasty case, an entire family got wiped out because the father decided he knew better than the officials, and he took them out into the area which wasn't safe. They were snowshoeing, and as best KD could figure, they'd walked onto a shelf of snow, which looked solid but actually wasn't. It gave way, and this family went ass over tea kettle, almost 300 feet down the slope. They landed on the rocks at the bottom, and the parents died instantly. One of the kids did as well, but the other two survived. One had a broken leg and fractured ribs, and the other was almost unharmed, apart from some bruising and a sprained ankle. The uninjured kid left his sibling behind and set out to find help, KD said. The kid didn't make it that far, about half a mile before a storm overtook him. Kid stopped to try and get warm, or maybe just a little rest, and ended up freezing to death. They ended up finding the family with the help of some witnesses who saw them heading out into the wilderness. And she was one of the kids who'd frozen to death, looking for help. She says it had started to snow, but enough to obscure long-distance vision, but not enough to make searching impossible. She saw as quickly as possible, she described in detail how, as she got closer, she realised first that it was a child, second, that they were deceased, and third, that they had frozen into one of the most pitiful positions she'd ever found a corpse in. The kid was sitting upright with his knees tucked up against his chest, arms were curled around them, and his head was tucked up in his coat. When she moved the coat to look at his face, she saw that he died crying. His face was twisted and the tears were frozen on his cheeks. She says it was painful. Obvious that the kid was terrified when he succumbed to hypothermia. And as a mother, it broke her heart. She told me repeatedly that she hopes her father is burning in hell as we speak. One other traumatic story she told me that stood out in my mind was one that happened when she was a rookie. Her team got a report of an experienced climber who hadn't come home the previous day. His wife was convinced that something had happened because he never failed to come home on time. They went out looking for him and had to climb what sounded like some very technical, challenging parts of the mountain. They got to a relatively flat area and KD started seeing blood in the snow. She followed the trail, and as she went, she started seeing little bits of tissue. She wasn't sure exactly what body part it had come from, but the further she followed it, the more there was. She followed this blood and tissue trail to a sheltered area under the cliff face, and she finds the climber. She said there was so much blood, more than she'd ever seen before. He was laying face down, one arm stretched in front of him, as if he died crawling. She looked closer to see that he's been partially disemboweled, which is where the tissue she'd seen had come from. The guy had an ice pick tucked into his hip holster, and it was covered in blood, of course. They'll never be sure exactly what had happened, but she says the best she can figure is that he went down is the guy had been attempting to climb up to the next area and had been using his ice axe to ascend. He'd probably hit a loose patch and fallen. On the way down, or possibly when he landed, he'd gotten impaled by the axe, and it had disemboweled him. He'd drug himself along, tearing piecing himself out as he went, and he had died under the cliff face. She isn't terribly bothered by the gore, but I guess a few of the guys who came to help her remove the body threw up when they turned him over into a good position as his intestines spilled out. Hey guys, so I hope you're enjoying this so far. I'd just like to say again, if you are, please subscribe to the channel and hit like and also make a comment, and I'll keep these stories coming. And now back into the stories. I mentioned to her that I was interested in hearing about any experience she had with people who had completely disappeared. Her eyes light up, and she leans in close to me. Want to hear a real doozy? She asks. She tells me about how, when she first started, there was a case that got a lot of attention. A family had been out berry picking in the area of the forest, very close by to the entrance of the park. They had two little boys, both under the age of 5, and some point during the day, one of them vanishes. There's absolutely a massive search, and they find absolutely nothing. It's another one of those cases where it's like the kid was never there in the first place. The dogs just sit down and don't pick up anything. No trace of the kid is found. The search goes on for about 2 months, but is eventually called off. Fast forward 6 months later, The family comes back to place flowers on the memorial that's been set up for the kid. They bring their other son. While they're placing the flowers, they lose sight of the kid for about 3 seconds, and in that span of time, he vanishes into thin air. Now, obviously, the parents are beyond devastated. It's awful enough to lose one child, but to lose two is beyond imagining. The search is huge, one of the largest the state has ever seen. There are about 300 volunteers combing every inch of this park looking for the kid, but again, there's no trace of him. The search goes on for about a week, with people looking miles from the part of park where he vanished. And then almost 2 weeks later, a volunteer, almost 15 miles from the designated search area, radios that he's found the kid. They assume the kid was dead, but the volunteer says he's not. Only alive is in good shape. Katie and her team go out to recover the kid. When they get there, she can't believe it. The kid that has been missing, his clothes are clean, there's no dirt on him anywhere, and he doesn't appear traumatized. The volunteer says he found the kid sitting on a log, playing with a little twig bundle that he bound together with some old rope. Katie asks him about where he'd been, who he was, and for those 2 weeks. The kid tells her that he'd been with the Fuzzy Man. Now, Katie firmly believes in Bigfoot, so she gets all excited and asks him what he means, the Fuzzy Man. Was he hairy? But the kid says no, he wasn't hairy, he was a fuzzy man. And when he describes a man that's blurry, like when you close your eyes and you can't make out a whole image, but he's blurry around the edges. He says the man came out of the woods and took the kid with him deep into the woods. The kid says he slept in a hollow tree, and the fuzzy man gave him berries to eat. Katie asks him if the man was mean, if he was scared. The kid says no, he wasn't scary, but I didn't like how he didn't have eyes. Katie asks the kid back to headquarters, and the cop takes him into town to talk about what happened. She's a friend with the cop that talked to him, and she says the kid described being kept in this tree by the fuzzy man and given berries whenever he was hungry. He was allowed to wander around very specific clearing, but when he tried to go further, the fuzzy man would get mad and yell real loud, even though he didn't have a mouth. When the kid got scared at night, the fuzzy man made it brighter and gave him a twig bundle. He said the fuzzy man was going to keep him, but he had to let him go because the kid wasn't the right one. He either can't or won't elaborate more on that. The cops just sort of left there scratching their heads. The search for his brother is renewed with no result. The kid has no idea where his brother might be, and they never find him. The last story that Katie told me was of something that happened to her when she got separated from her training group. When she was a rookie, they were learning basics of high elevation belaying on a well-mapped side of a mountain. She had to use a bathroom. She went off about 15 yards from the group during a meal break and did her business. I'll tell you the rest exactly as she told it me. So I take a piss, and once I'm done, I start going back to the group. But I've only gotten about 5 feet when I realise that I have no idea where I am. And this wasn't, oh, I just turned around, lost. I mean, I had actually no fucking clue where I was. If you'd asked me, I don't even think I'd have been able to tell you what state I was in. It was just sort of how I imagine people with amnesia feel, you know? You're completely lost and you have no idea what to do. So I stood there for a while, just trying to figure out where the fuck I was and what I was supposed to do. But the longer I stand there, the more confused and turned around I get. So I start walking. As I recall, just picked a random direction and went for it. And as I walked, it was getting worse and worse, to the point I had no concept of why I was on the mountain in the first place. I'm just trudging through the snow, and then I start hearing a voice. It's kind of inside my head, almost like a frog, if one could talk, all low and croaky. It tells me over and over, it's okay, you just need to find something to eat. Find something to eat and you'll be okay. Just keep walking and find something to eat. Eat, eat. So I just start looking around for anything that I can eat. And I swear to God, I've never felt so hungry in my whole life. It was bottomless, and I think I haven't eaten just about anything you put in front of me right then. I had no concept of time, so I had no idea how long I'd been out there. When I hear actual voice coming towards me, I go towards and see, and it's another SAR officer, and he looks fucking terrified. He's running towards me, asking if I'm okay, and what the hell I'm doing out here. And the scary thing is, as he's running towards me, I kind of see myself reaching into my belt for a hunting knife. I'm not even really thinking about what I'm doing, but I'm thinking is that I have to eat. If I don't eat, I'll never be okay again. So I have to eat. He sees me doing that and he backs right off. He yells at me to put my knife away and that he's not going to hurt me. And that kind of snaps me back out of it. All of a sudden I know exactly where I am. I put my knife away and run back to him and ask him how long I've been gone, thinking he'll tell me I've been gone half an hour or an hour or so. But he tells me I've been gone for 2 fucking days. I've gone over the peaks and ended up almost on the other side of the mountain. And if I kept going, I would have ended up wandering into about 300 miles of wilderness, where never found me. He can't believe I was not dead, and of course I don't know what the fuck to think. To me, no time had passed at all. I don't say anything. I just go back with him to a rendezvous point. I was taken back to HQ to be airlifted to the hospital. When I get there, they do all kinds of tests and try to figure out what happened. As best they can guess, I had some kind of weird Fuji state, which kind of like an amnesia or weird seizure that knocked my brain out of whack. But the truth of what really happened, we don't know. It's never happened again, but I tell you, ever since then, I never go out alone. People rank on me for this and making me come with them when I leave the group. I just tell them that listening to me piss in the snow is better than losing me for 2 fucking days in a freezing mountain. So that's KD's story. We'll leave that there for you to digest a bit. Please like and subscribe to the videos. I will be making another one and publishing with the next stories we have from another SRA officer called EW. Please like, subscribe, and